the Grand Prix of the year so far, because not only is Riccardo Patrese in pole position, and a very worthily achieved pole position, which when he put it up was 1.3 seconds faster than Ayrton Senna. There he is in second place on the grid, the World Championship leader. But we have the intriguing situation of little Alex Caffey in the Dallara, third on the grid. Both the Williams are in the first four places on the grid. Prost is fifth and Gerhard Berger down in sixth position. But in the warm-up this morning, the half-hour final practice, when they were using race tyres and full tanks, Nigel Mansell, using exactly the same car and the same type of tyre that he used yesterday to finish 12th on the grid, was fastest. Jonathan Palmer was second fastest. 1 second separates the first 10 on the grid this morning in the warm-up. Another second separates the next 10, and 3 seconds covers virtually the whole grid. The Hungaro ring is very short of grip. It's a very difficult circuit to set a car up for. It is going to be a very long race of 2 hours. It is going to be extremely demanding.
Yes, indeed. Very little rest here for the drivers. Short straights, slow corners, and all hard work. Overtaking being particularly difficult here on the track. You can see the map now of the circuit, and the start-finish straight is the longest straight and the most likely passing point on the circuit, but even that is difficult. Riccardo Patrese leads the field round, the man who surprised everybody on Friday with a blistering lap on qualifying tyres to take the pole, but not even the mighty Senna could get near yesterday. He was still half a second away, but certainly it was a heroic effort. Patrese was faced with the decision of whether he wanted to start from the right-hand side of the track, giving him the inside line to the first corner, or whether he, with the possibility of it being dusty as it's not on the main racing line, or whether he wanted to start from the left-hand side. He chose the left, and certainly a difficult decision for a driver to make. I would have personally gone for the right-hand side with my team, giving the track a good sweep to get any dust off it from where I was going to start, because I feel with Senna, I'd rather have Senna on my outside than my inside in order to defend the corner. But Patrese has elected for the left-hand side. Of course, with the staggered grid, he's got a length and a half or a couple of lengths advantage, and he's gambling on getting very good traction off the line and having clear air between him and the others at the first corner. So Patrese now slows the field down as they're coming round to the penultimate corner. Slow left-handed hairpin, then a short squirt up a gear, and then back onto the brakes again and into the long 180-degree right-hander. Well, they're going up the short little straight now and into the long right-hander that completes the lap.
Now, the first dash up to the first corner is just as critical here at the Hungaro ring as it is at Monaco, for much the same reason. Passing on this track is extremely difficult. Ayrton Senna controlled the race from the front last year to win. This, incidentally, is Nelson Piquet's car that we're riding with. He and Nakajima have the race car cameras on them, and we've been having some fine pictures during qualifying.
And stand by really for what promises, certainly from the closeness of the practice times, to be one of the most exciting races of the season. The cars coming slowly onto the grid, but the warm-up times this morning in race trim were very, very close indeed.
Nelson Piquet, there he is, and he was fifth fastest in practice this morning, 17th on the grid. Now watch this start. Patrese on the right, Senna on the left. Behind Patrese is Caffey. And it's a good start by Patrese. And up alongside him comes Caffey. Ayrton Senna is going through on the inside. It looks to me as though he's going to take the lead, but no. Patrese holds it. Senna is in second. Up comes one of the Ferraris. Caffey Cafe is in third position, and Riccardo Patrese has done what he needed to do. He's got away first, and that gives him a tremendous advantage. And look at the lead he's pulled out already. Now, the McLarens were having hesitation problems with their engines this morning, and they were throwing out oil. Cafe is in third place, Berger is fourth, Prost is in fifth position, but Riccardo Patrese, the winner of 2 Grand Prix in his long career, leads this one at the Hungaroring with nearly 2 hours to go. It's a 77-lap race. That's going to take the full-time distance. It's Senna, Cafe, Berger, and there on the line is De Cesaris, who has been held, as you can see, and it's still, as they come towards the end of the first lap now, round the left-hander, now they come up to the 180-degree right-hand turn, which leads into the start and finish straight with Patrese, Senna, Cafe, Berger, Prost.
Yes, Patrese looking very impressive at the moment. He's pulled out a nice little lead on the first lap. He was forceful at the first corner to fend off the challenge from Senna, and driving very well indeed. But I'm sure the drivers behind, this track has very little grip, and they need to get the tyres hot. They won't be in a hurry. They know they're not threatened by overtaking, and this race may take a little while to settle down.
Boutsen is sixth, Nannini is seventh. There is Alain Prost in fifth position. He's got a lot to do, because Alain Prost really needs to finish ahead of Ayrton Senna if he is to consolidate his World Championship chances. And as you can see, that is Nelson Piquet there. In front of him is one of the arrows, almost certainly that of Eddie Cheever. And we're going now up towards turn 3. This is one of the fastest parts of the course, 155 miles an hour. It is still Patrese as he goes up towards turn 4, round it now, into the top chicane. Senna looks a whisker closer, getting the tyres good and warm, and it's still Cafe third.
Yes, indeed. I think Senna is a little bit closer, and sensibly, having failed to make it past at the first corner, he's now playing himself in gently. There is really not a hurry. He's not under any pressure from behind at the moment. And he, of course, will be worrying mainly about Patrese in front of him and Prost, who's running in fifth place. Prost, of course, with a 17-point lead over Senna in the World Championship.
Over the line into lap 3. And Nigel Mansell is in 8th position. He has gained 4 places. And here they come. It's Patrese with Senna closing right up. Berger is catching Cafe. There is Prost 6th, Boutsen 7th, Nannini 8th. And you saw in the background Nigel Mansell, whose car is beautifully set up today. Race tyres, full tanks. He was very quick, fastest indeed in the half-hour warm-up. And Senna now is really starting to put Riccardo Patrese under pressure. And yesterday, Patrese and Boutsen said their cars did not handle as well on full tanks as they would have liked them to. That is Jean Alesi sprinting out of the pits. He started from 11th on the grid ahead of his teammate, Jonathan Palmer, who was 19th, but second fastest this morning. Whereas the McLaren of Ayrton Senna was very good on full tanks and race tyres in the practice session yesterday. The McLaren seems to be slightly better balanced, but the gearbox remains suspect. As I said earlier on, this morning Capelli went off on oil, which had been dropped by Prost's McLaren, and that is both significant and unique. I can't remember that happening before. So now on lap 3, coming up towards the end of it, Ayrton Senna closing a bit. The fastest lap so far is that of Riccardo Patrese, 1 minute 27.6.
Well, Senna did 26.8 last lap, and is closer, but there's no rush. He needs, I'm sure his tactics will be to keep pressuring as Berger challenges and makes it past Alex Cafe. So Berger moves up into third place, and Prost is breathing down the neck of the pair of them. So a battle developing now for third place, as Senna stalks Patrese. He's got plenty of time. I think as long as he sees the following battle for third place getting smaller in his mirrors, he won't be in any undue hurry. I think he'll just want to keep the pressure on Patrese. He'll gradually increase it and try and force a mistake, because that's probably the easiest way to get past here. The McLaren, of course, will probably have a slight acceleration advantage over the Williams if he can get out of the last corner on the lap up the pit straight. From close behind, he might be able to have a challenge there.
Now, the man to watch at the moment is Alain Prost, who is in 5th position. He needs to get ahead of Caffey and Berger, who are 4th and 3rd, because Prost's target for the day is obviously Ayrton Senna, who is 17 points behind them in the World Championship. Alex Caffey, who, by the way, is using Pirelli tyres, is holding up Alain Prost. There they go. You can see that there's a snake developing now. Over the line, it's Patrese leads. Senna is dropping back a little bit at the moment. Then there's a gap. Berger is 3rd. Then it's Caffey, Prost, Boutsen, Nannini, Nigel Mansell closing up. And as you can see, Prost is going for it, but he has the door closed in his face and retains that place.
Yes, Caffey certainly moved across the track a bit under braking and he leant on Prost, but I don't think that was unfair. He didn't move over violently, but he did enough to cause Prost to think better of trying to get down the inside, and Caffey left him very little space there, but I think that was fair defence of the position. But it's important, I'm sure, to Prost to get past him as soon as possible, because he can see Berger going away quite considerably as a result of that. And fastest lap so far to Ayrton Senna with a 1:26.3.
Riding with Nelson Piquet, 15th. Race order on this, the 5th lap in a 77-lap race. Patrese leads, there he is. Senna 2nd, Berger in 3rd position. Caffey is 4th, then Prost.
And amazingly now, Patrese is actually pulling away a little bit from Senna, and Berger seems to be closing on Ayrton Senna. So it may be a little bit early to see if Senna's in any sort of trouble, but the one problems that McLarens have had, well, all the teams have had it to a lesser or greater extent, and that is lack of front-end grip. And, of course, that overworks the front tyres when they're sliding. And now Prost having another go, but not close enough this time.
And the gap between Riccardo Patrese and Ayrton Senna has increased to 1.8 seconds with the fastest lap by Riccardo Patrese. 1 minute 25.89. Senna 2nd, Berger 3rd. Then it's Caffey in 4th position and Prost. Here they come towards us now. Caffey 4th, Prost 5th, Boutsen 6th. Nannini is in 7th place. Nigel Mansell is right with them in 8th place. There's the confirmation.
And Senna's last lap was definitely slower than he'd been going before, so we will watch that position, but it looks as if Senna may be in some minor problem. It could just be that his tyres haven't settled well yet, and he may have to just look after the front tyres to cool them down a bit if they've overheated. But at the moment, Patrese is having it all his own way. Berger still trying to get to grips with Ayrton Senna for 2nd place. And here's the big battle. Caffey with the big queue behind him. Prost needs to be right behind him, as close as possible as they go now into the right-hander that completes the lap. This is where Prost wants to get past, going up the straight, but he's not quite close enough.
Yeah, the first 3, no change. Now we're waiting for that snake, and it is still Caffey. Prost is challenging. Now look for Prost. He's going to try and take Caffey here. Caffey's having none of it. It's still the little Italian in 4th position. Prost is 5th. Then it's Boutsen, Nannini, Mansell. You can see Nigel Mansell in the background, and Caffey is definitely holding them up.
Yes, and Prost is going to have to find a way to start the start-finish straight closer than he has been to Caffey for the last couple of laps, because you can see how much he's starting from 4 or 5 lengths behind, and the McLaren's right with him. So if he can start from half a length behind, then that he will have enough of a power advantage to take him past. But of course the problem is getting that close because of the turbulence from the wings of the car in front. He's going through turbulent air and a bit of a hole in the air and lacks the downforce to give him as much grip as the leading car. Patrese now coming through, things have settled. Senna has got going again, although he had a slowish lap, but he seems to have recovered.
Now, here's something interesting. Gerhard Berger is lapping faster than Ayrton Senna in front of him. He's lapping 7/10 of a second faster. As you look at this battle between Caffey 4th, Prost 5th, Boutsen 6th, Nannini 7th, Nigel Mansell in 8th place, Derek Warwick in 9th position. Here is the race leader, Riccardo Patrese, Ayrton Senna 2nd, Berger in 3rd. Then there's a gap of about 4.5 seconds, and now Prost is through. Yes, Alain Prost moves ahead of Caffey and up into 4th position. The gap between Prost in 4th place and Berger in 3rd is about 4 seconds, but now Prost has got a clear track in front of him. Caffey now is holding up Boutsen, and here's a replay.
Yes, and Prost, Caffey was defending the inside of the corner, and Prost had enough momentum there to take him past round the outside under braking. So now Prost has got a clear track in front of him, certainly for a few laps. He is some 4.5, nearly 5 seconds behind Berger.
And gaining, as you saw, pulling well away from little Alex Caffey in the 4 DFR Power Dallara. And now on lap 8, it is Riccardo Patrese, 2.5 seconds ahead of Senna, who is 1 second ahead of Berger 3rd. Then there's a 6-second gap to Prost. Caffey is in 5th position, Boutsen is in 6th place, Alessandro Nannini is in 7th, Nigel Mansell is still 8th, Derek Warwick is in 9th position, the leading British driver, 11th, 10th is Capelli, 11th Martini, 12th is Modena, and over the line goes Patrese again.
Another replay of Prost passing Caffey there. It's the 3rd time they've shown us that, from different angles of course, and Prost has really pulled out quite a lot. Gerhard Berger, at the moment, the quickest man on the circuit.
And definitely catching Senna. I do take my hat off unreservedly to Riccardo Patrese. He's won 2 Grand Prix in his life. He's a rejuvenated man this year. He had a record lap, and Mansell's going for it. Nigel Mansell attacking Nannini for 7th position. But Riccardo Patrese had a record lap in Brazil. He's had 3 second places. He was well up in subsequent races, and look at him now from pole position. He's stamping his authority on the Hungarian Grand Prix, whilst Gerhard Berger, and now we're with Nakajima, Gerhard Berger catching Ayrton Senna. The gap is now only 7/10 of a second, and Nakajima in the Lotus is chasing Bertrand Gachot in the Onyx. Now there's Bertrand Gachot, the Belgian driver, in the Onyx, and that is Piercarlo Ghinzani celebrating his first Grand Prix drive this year by going off onto the grass as Patrese completes a lap, and Berger is right with Senna. Now look at this, the gap between Senna and Berger is down to, you can see what it is visually, I'll tell you in time, it's about half a second.
And Prost currently the quickest man on the circuit, but only marginally quicker than Patrese, who's looking very comfortable and very accomplished out there in the lead. And there, and we have a replay here of the Minardi going off. That was Ghinzani. A bit of agricultural stuff, avoiding the sandpit very sensibly, because you don't get out of those very easily, and he sort of takes the scenic route and rejoins.
Yes, Piercarlo Ghinzani in the Osella Ford, back in the race. And Patrese now still the fastest man on the circuit, 1:24.976, and that compares with the old lap record on the old circuit, because it's changed this year. I'll tell you how in a minute. It's some 6 seconds faster than the previous lap record. Part of that due, of course, to the fact that the circuit's been altered. Hopefully I'll show you where soon. But meantime, Gerhard Berger there in 3rd position has well and truly got Senna in his sights, while Patrese well and truly pulls away. There he is. Over the line goes Patrese now. Senna, Berger, down to the first right-hander, turn 1, 3rd gear, 70 miles an hour. It starts to drop downhill now. There is Alain Prost, who's closed the gap to 6.5 seconds, pulling away from the 5th position, and Alex Caffey, who's got Boutsen right behind him. Boutsen has got Nannini tackling him and trying to go through. Boutsen closes the door on his old teammate. They were both in the Benetton team last year. And now you're looking again at the battle for second as Riccardo Patrese goes up towards turn 4.
Yes, and Nigel Mansell, despite being quickest in the warm-up in race trim this morning, is now stuck at the back of that battle, still in 8th place, and he's got a problem because he's got two pretty good engines in front of him, Nannini with the new Ford engine and Boutsen with the Renault engine. And that is going to make life hard for him to pass, particularly when they're battling with each other ahead of him. Prost is some 6.5 seconds behind Berger, who's challenging Senna for second place, but likewise Berger's going to have a lot of trouble getting past Senna because there's no doubt that the McLaren has a little bit more power with the Honda engine than the Ferrari does. Ferrari chassis is working very well here, but they are struggling a little bit now. Watch the two of them as they go up the straight, and you'll see Senna's McLaren actually pulling away visibly from the Ferrari, and that requires quite a strong power advantage. Closing up again under braking, of course, Berger, but there was no doubt that the McLaren, despite giving the Ferrari the benefit of the slipstream on the straight, because of course on the straight being in the hole in the air is a benefit, less wind resistance. But even with that help, the McLaren was able to power away.
And all the time, Alain Prost is inching up. He is in 4th position, 5.8 seconds behind Gerhard Berger. Now, Berger right up with Senna. This is a tremendous fight for the first 3 positions. And Alain Prost, in his quiet way, is not going to be unhappy with this situation. If somebody else other than Senna can win a Grand Prix, that suits Alain Prost well, because Ayrton Senna really needs to win every Grand Prix with Prost well up in order to retain his Senna's World Championship. And you can see that in 3rd place in the semi-automatic gearbox Ferrari, Gerhard Berger's giving him a hard time. Now here is Nelson Piquet chasing Eddie Cheever. He's in 14th position, Cheever. Therefore, Nelson Piquet is 15th. Ahead of both of them is Mauricio Gugelmin in 13th place in the March. In the March Judd, over the line, Patrese, Senna and Berger together. That is 12 laps completed out of 77, and Prost is there in the background.
And it really is quite remarkable how the McLaren pulls away from the Ferrari on the start-finish straight, because to pull away that much, it's quite visible from externally as Nannini goes into the pits in the Benetton, and it may just be a routine tyre change, because I was about to tell you I've noticed that the lap times have slowed down a bit. It is only a tyre change. There he goes, good quick change, and that can only mean, because the fuel load is lightening and the car should be going steadily faster and faster, the pace at the front is not as quick as it was 5 laps ago, and that means that the tyres are struggling a little bit already.
And Alain Prost has just put up the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 24.9. The others are lapping in the 1:25.9, 1:26 bracket. So Alain Prost, you can look for him now as Berger comes over the crest. There is the McLaren of Alain Prost in 4th position. And on lap 13 in this 77-lap race, it's Patrese, Senna, Berger, almost as close to each other as it takes to say their names. Prost is 4th, Caffey is 5th, Boutsen is 6th, Mansell is up to 7th, Warwick is 8th because Nannini has been into the pits, Capelli is 9th, and Nannini is back in the race in 10th position.
And I'm surprised that Nannini came so soon for tyres, because it really is a little bit early, and now Prost has put up the fastest lap of the race, and that is an amazing feat because the others are going a bit slower, but in fact the whole pace at the front has picked up a little bit. But I was surprised that Mansell has bettered that. The first time Mansell has had a clear track in front of him. Mansell in 7th place and chasing Thierry Boutsen. So the pace has picked up a little bit, and there we see on the caption Mansell done 16 seconds behind the leader Patrese.
Nelson Piquet that was, with Stefano Modena in the Brabham in 12th position ahead. So where was Eddie Cheever? Now we're riding with Piquet again, and that is the Brabham Judd of Stefano Modena, who started 8th on the grid, is 12th in the race, has lost 4 places, and Eddie Cheever is now, must be behind Nelson Piquet, but anyway, here's the lead coming through now to complete the 14th lap. Out of the 180-degree turn 13, they exited in third gear, up to maximum speed of about 160 miles an hour in sixth gear, and it's Patrese, Senna, Berger, look for Prost.
Yes, and you can see that Prost is visibly closing the gap behind. There he is now, and the gap is now only 2.6 seconds to Berger for Prost, and he's getting closer all the time. He's been lapping nearly a second a lap quicker than the leading three. And there, confirmation of Mansell's current fastest lap, 1:24.3.
And that is Bertrand Gachot, but the problem behind Prost is Alex Caffey. There's a long gap, and then Boutsen in sixth position is tucked up behind Caffey as you look at the first three. And if only Boutsen and Mansell could get past Caffey, they might be able to do something about closing up on the tremendous scrap for the lead. And there is Caffey, followed by Boutsen, followed by Mansell. That is Nigel Mansell there, and he is now in seventh position, trying to take Thierry Boutsen, the winner of the Canadian Grand Prix.
And Caffey at the moment, as we watch from Nakajima's Lotus, in the fairly tail end battle of the race, but this is not the tail-end battle, this is Caffey, and Caffey has definitely at the moment got a tyre disadvantage, because just looking down the list, all those on Pirellis seem to be struggling at the moment in the race, but it may be that they can go the race without a pit stop and their tyres will steadily get better, but that's not what they expect to do, and their race rubber seems to be a disadvantage, but not that big a disadvantage that Boutsen isn't struggling to get by. And Mansell as well, but Caffey there still. Boutsen has a look down the inside, but not positive enough to have a real go. Oh dear, is that the place to do it? I wouldn't have thought so, and Boutsen on reflection agreed.
And meantime, Derek Warwick is catching Mansell, because Boutsen and Mansell being held up by Alex Caffey. Now, Mansell is trying to take Boutsen. I suppose you can hardly blame Alex Caffey for sticking to his racing line, but it is infuriatingly frustrating for Boutsen and Mansell behind him, who know that if only they could get past the Dallara, they could sail away and try to close up on Alain Prost. Meantime, on lap 16 out of 77, Patrese leads Senna by 1.5 seconds. Senna is half a second ahead of Berger, third. Prost is 2 seconds behind Berger in fourth position. You're looking at the battle for fifth, sixth and seventh between Caffey, Boutsen and Mansell, with Derek Warwick in eighth position, ninth is Capelli, 10th is Gugelmin, 11th is Martini, 12th is Cheever, Jonathan Palmer is in 15th place, Martin Brundle is 20th. Nobody has been lapped yet, but somebody is going to be before very much longer, and that could change the complexion of the race, the way the first three are so close to each other.
Yes, we now have a four-car fight for the lead as the battle for fifth place goes past on your screen. Caffey a little bit of room to breathe there, and certainly he's holding that group up enough that the following cars are all closing up. But we now have what's basically a four-way battle for the lead. Patrese, Senna, Berger and Prost has now caught them. You see 2.7 seconds covering the first four, then a big gap to Caffey. As Mansell challenges, but unsuccessfully.
And Alain Prost will be looking for his opportunity. Last year, here at Hungary, he carried out one of the most audacious passing manoeuvres I have ever seen by taking the lead from Ayrton Senna, only to get his racing line slightly wrong on the exit and immediately lose that lead to Ayrton Senna. And you can see now, there are the second, third and fourth cars, Senna, Berger and Prost. McLaren, Ferrari and McLaren, with in front of all three of them, Riccardo Patrese luxuriating in the atmosphere of a clear track, but catching the tail-enders. Patrese, Senna, Berger, Mansell and Prost. Well, Grand Prix racing, thank heavens, is getting better and better race by race in the second half of the 1989 World Championship season. Ferrari have really got their act together here in racing trim, But still, Riccardo Patrese, the veteran driver, the most experienced of them all. This is his 186th Grand Prix, keeps his cool and the lead.
And still, Boutsen has failed to make it past Caffey, and I feel that Mansell must be getting very frustrated with Boutsen, who I think I've seen a couple of times. He's been close enough to have had a go, and really hasn't made the overtaking manoeuvre as positive as one would have expected from a driver of his experience. And I should think Mansell will be very keen to find a way around Boutsen and have a go at Caffey himself, because I can't see Nigel having the same difficulty in getting round Caffey.
Tyre changes could decide this race, because the slickness of the pit crews as Nelson Piquet goes past, I think it was Martini, but I only caught a flash of the car as it was passed by Piquet's Lotus Judd. Meantime, here are the first four, closer than ever. They're doing about 160 miles an hour here. And Senna's closer. Berger is as close to Senna as he was, but Prost is closer to Berger than he has been all race. The power shift of the Ferrari is going to be needed with a vengeance to save split seconds now, because Prost is going for third position.
And it is wonderful to see three different makes in a four-way fight for the lead of a Grand Prix. And that is a heartening sight for the future of Grand Prix racing. We've had it a little bit processional for the last couple of years, thanks to the all-dominant performance of the McLaren team, but at long last the others are closing the gap and getting competitive. Here the power of the Honda engine is not as telling as it has been at a lot of other circuits, because there is no doubt that Honda have a march over the others in terms of out-and-out horsepower.
And can I remind you of the length of this race? It's going to run practically 2 hours. And these drivers, with all their experience, will obviously be pacing themselves. They know that to make a precipitate move would be quite wrong. They've all got tremendous experience. Riccardo Patrese, I've talked to you about. Ayrton Senna, of course, has been driving in karts, Formula Ford, Formula 3 for years. Gerhard Berger has too, although he's the least experienced of the four. And here is Nakajima, Satoru Nakajima, the Japanese driver, in 15th place. Study the line of the Lotus. Now this is the run up to turn 3, about 155 miles an hour. There is Alex Caffey, followed by Boutsen, and that is one of the Minardis. It's Martini. It's Pierluigi Martini, smoking hard, I'm sure, going into the pits. And I was right. Pierluigi Martini in the Minardi Ford, coming into the pits with, I couldn't see clearly whether the smoke was coming from the engine bay or the brakes. But whatever the problem, it's about to be looked at, and we are now on lap 20 with a long, long way to go, with Riccardo Patrese leading Ayrton Senna. And that's the answer. You can see the brake pads must have caught fire, because there was either that or smoke or grease from the CV joint. Anyway, the fire extinguisher soon take care of that, to the disgust of the Tyrrell pitmen who are being smoked out in the background. And Riccardo Patrese now, with Ayrton Senna right up with him. Berger in third place, Prost in fourth position, 14 seconds behind now, as Modena goes past Martini on this replay, who is about to go into the pits. And behind Modena, you saw the Onyx of Stefan Johansson. And here are the leaders.
Yes, and Prost seems to be taking a little bit of a rest at the back of the group. He's not putting himself into an attacking position on Gerhard Berger. And that may be a deliberate tactic to let the others sort it out for the time being. And he may just be nursing his tyres, content to sit back and watch for the time being.
Well, there is Gerhard Berger, who has yet to score a point, and Nigel Mansell has got ahead of Thierry Boutsen, up into sixth position, and is in the points.
And more importantly, he's now got Caffey to deal with direct, and we wait to see whether he can be more positive than Boutsen was in finding a way round Alex Caffey. He probably has less power than Boutsen to help him with that, but a fairly more positive approach to driving.
Ginzani moves over, lets the leaders through. Patrese, Senna, Berger, Prost. Those four have lapped the Italian in the Osella, who is actually coming into the pits. And you haven't seen as close a fight as this between the four lead cars in a Grand Prix after 21 laps this year. And now Alain Prost is back. He's forcing. He's actually the fastest of the three, only by a couple of tenths of a second, but nevertheless he is the fastest. And the first four are pulling away now. Alex Caffey, here is Caffey, in fifth position. Now Nigel Mansell, having disposed of Boutsen, moved up into the points into sixth position. Boutsen down to seventh. In eighth position it's Derek Warwick, ninth is Capelli, 10th is Gugelmin, 11th is Chiva, and 12th is Piquet, as Patrese, Senna, Berger, Prost. And there in the pits is Piercarlo Ginzani. His objective, he said to me before this race began, was to finish it. It rather looks as though he's going to fail to achieve his objective. Now, that is Alain Prost.
Yes, and I'm hoping the director will show us plenty of the Mansell attempt to get past Caffey, because the leaders look pretty static at the moment. Nobody appears to be in a hurry to make any sort of a move. There's a bit of a stalemate between, except that Prost is the closest he's ever been to Berger, and Prost is certainly in a position to attack. But Berger does not give his places away. If you want to get past Berger, you really have to earn it.
Yeah, and Alain Prost is certainly earning the right to tackle Berger. He's half a second quicker now, and Nigel Mansell goes through in fifth position ahead of Caffey. Nigel Mansell now has got 17 seconds between himself and Prost.
Well, let's hope we get at least a replay, and yes, we do. Mansell outpowered him on the second longest straight on the circuit, nipped across Van der Ven. In fact, by the time they got to the start-finish line here, Mansell had got a very big lead indeed. He was already a second ahead, over a second ahead. And there's Jerry Boutsen, who's been for tyres.
As a result of which he has dropped down to 11th place. He obviously took the opportunity, having been passed by Nigel Mansell and feeling his tyres starting to go off, to dive into the pits for a fresh set. Here is the battle for the lead. This is lap 23. There is Alain Prost. Patrese, Senna, Berger, Prost. As you can see, 55 laps to go. Long, long way. 22 completed, 55 to go. Over twice as many have already been run, and another lap completed. So the V10 Renault-powered Williams of Riccardo Patrese leads. Senna is looking to me as though he's decided that he's going to have another go for the lead. He's a whisker further away from Berger. He's a whisker closer to Patrese, but the Italian pulls out again.
And Nigel Mansell has just put up his fastest lap of the race, having had his first clear lap for some time, and pulled nearly 2 seconds on the leading group. Mansell now just under 16 seconds behind Prost, and we will report on that gap for you, but certainly he is at the moment the fastest man on the circuit.
And where, I hear you asking, are the British drivers? The answer is that Derek Warwick is in 7th place. Jonathan Palmer is in 16th place. Martin Brundle is in 20th position. Still nobody has been lapped, and that is an excellent sign. And still Patrese, Senna, Berger and Prost, and there they are on lap 24, continue to fight for the lead. 650 horsepower from their V10 Renault, V6 Honda, V12 Ferrari and V10 Honda engines as Prost comes into the picture. The Hondas have actually got a horsepower advantage over all the others. Nobody knows quite what it is, but it is known that it exists. But this is a demonstration of the fact that that power advantage thus far has not been enough. But again, Senna is starting to push, and I'm beginning to wonder whether Riccardo Patrese's race car balance is now being upset a little as the tyres start to wear.
I got a glimpse of Prost's front tyres then, and they didn't look too fit to me, but that was only a glimpse, and I'll have another look when we get a close-up of Prost's car. But I get the impression that his front tyres are getting nearly shot, but it's beginning to be the sort of time where those planning to make only one tyre stop can afford to come in, although we're quite a way short of half distances yet. Remember, the equivalent half distance for a car is well before the actual half distance, because the car is so much heavier with fuel in the first half of the race. So it's somewhere the half distance, and the fastest lap goes to Nigel Mansell, who is absolutely flying now. He's lapping 2 seconds, over 2 seconds faster than the leaders. The gap has gone in that last lap from 15.7 seconds down to 13.5. So 2.2 seconds he's pulled on the leading group. And at that rate, he's not going to take a huge amount of time to catch them, and he's got a nice clear road on which to do it.
Especially as you watch Nigel Mansell, the winner of the Brazilian Grand Prix, with those second places in France and Britain and a third in Germany. Bear in mind that he's got a clear circuit in front of him. The others will be coming in for tyres soon. Now there's Mansell going through the full length of the straight. Now the leaders are coming up to the tail enders, and any one of Senna, Berger or Prost could see an opportunity here, with Riccardo Patrese having to clear the way to move ahead. Now, there is Alboreto moving over in the low lap, but stopping Senna. Alboreto stopped Senna, and Senna's passed him now, but that gave Patrese the opportunity to pull away a bit. He's increased the gap between himself and Senna, who's got Berger right behind him, who's got Prost right behind him.
Yes, and Mansell is really catching them fast. That caption a little bit out of date, because, well, Mansell is now 11.2 seconds behind Prost, and he pulled 4 seconds, over 4 seconds on that lap. Now, you see here that Senna was nearly pushed onto the grass there, had a bit of a moment, but he managed to control it with his great natural talent, and there is one of the marches having a bit of a scenic route, I think.
Now, Patrese's got to catch this tail-ender and get past him before the right-hander at the end of the straight. I think he will. It's one of the Minardis, and he's done so. Is Senna going to be able to follow through? No, not there. There's Prost in fourth position. So Patrese thus far is dealing with the traffic extremely well. Senna is past Sala, it is, in the Minardi. Berger has still got to take the Spaniard, and that gives Senna the opportunity to pull away a little. Sala still in the way of Gerhard Berger. Look for the Ferrari coming out of the slipstream. He does it. The first three have lapped Luis Perez Sala, the Spaniard in the Minardi. Alain Prost has yet to do so. He's probably done it by the time you get him in the picture again. Yes, he has. And so this is lap 27.
Well, certainly Patrese is really holding the leaders up a little bit now, which is why they're all bunched up in line astern. I think Prost is struggling to stay with him, and I'm sure that's good tactics by him, in that he will wait till he feels is the earliest sensible time to go on to fresh tyres, but I think he will try and make his stop before the others. He wants to time it really well. So long as he can stay with the group, he wouldn't pass them anyway. He might as well stay on the highly worn tyres, so that he can then get on as Capelli we watch in the pits. It was him we saw on the grass just now, so he may have to check over the underneath of the car. He's been bouncing it around the curbs a bit. The leaders go through to complete their 27th lap, still in line astern, and we await Mansell's arrival to see. Mansell goes through now, just over 8 seconds behind Alain Prost, so he's still catching them fast, but not lapping quite as quickly as he was.
Michele Alboreto, who started 26th for the second race in succession in only his second race for the Lola Lamborghini team, exits the Hungarian Grand Prix, having held up Senna earlier on. He's got a cracked rib, and I'm sure he's in so much pain that he's just had to come out of the race. He had a pain-killing injection just before the race began, but it was obviously not enough to cope with the problem, and he's brave and determined to have gone as far as he did. Lap 28, Patrese now is further ahead. Alboreto walking, well, looking at the back of the car as though it's a car problem rather than an Alboreto problem. Fire marshals doubling up, but I don't think they've got anything to worry about at all. Patrese just walks back to the pit, and now on lap 28, not yet half distance. I told you it was going to be a long, long race, and indeed it is. But my goodness, I've said this several times this season, but any doubts anybody had about the ability of Riccardo Patrese at a time when he was driving for less worthy teams than Williams have long since been dispelled. And he's certainly enhancing his reputation considerably here in Hungary. He has led since the start of the race. James?
And Mansell, as I said on the last lap, not going quite as quickly as he was when he first got clear air, as we bounce along with Nelson Piquet. That gives you an idea of just what a buffeting you get. And that's Gugelmin, who looks to be parking his car just at the end of a lap, and pushed away. Couldn't quite see what became of him, but Mansell still catching the leaders, although I think probably that blast of tremendous speed that he showed as soon as he got past Cappy probably hurt his tyres a little bit, and he's now unable to catch them quite as fast as he was. But it's 7.6 seconds to Alain Prost for Nigel Mansell. Now I think that Prost is in a bit of tyre trouble, but not so much that he can't keep up with that leading group, and I would fancy the right tactics for him would be to try and be the first one of that group into the pits. There's somebody going in, and it's Berger. So Berger goes for the pits, and I think Prost will go next lap. I'm sure that would be the right thing to do, to try and get a good change, get onto the fresh rubber before the others.
Yeah, I've got the stopwatch running, don't worry. We'll see how long it takes. An 8-second stop is a very good one, and there it is. I think it was rather less than that, 7.4 seconds, but I won't argue over 3/5 of a second. Gerhard Berger with an extremely quick stop, whichever way you slice it, into the pits, onto new tyres and out again, leaving Riccardo Patrese still in the lead. But now Alain Prost up into third position, probably coming in for tyres soon, but knowing that if he can get past Ayrton Senna, and there is Berger being passed, as you can see, by his teammate Nigel Mansell, by Alex Caffey, I'm sorry, the Delara of Alex Caffey. But look at this battle now for second position. There is Alain Prost. Actually, Senna is quickest of the first three at the present moment. He's just gone round at a little under 1 minute and 25 seconds. No, I tell a lie. Patrese is marginally quicker. And is now Riccardo Patrese into his 31st lap in this 77-lap race. We are surely going to be seeing soon Patrese, Senna and Prost coming in for tyres. I find it hard to believe that they're going on for very much longer.
And I think that was well done by Berger coming in when he did, and I'm sure that Prost should be thinking about making his tyre stop very soon, because that is, if you can get a good stop, he's stuck at the back of a group at the moment, and probably the easiest way to pass them is if you happen to be lucky with your pit crew and they do a really good job and you can actually be in and out of the pits quicker. So Patrese leads. Mansell still catching the leaders, but not nearly as quickly. He is just under 6 seconds behind Prost.
Boutsen, incidentally, who was the first of the fast men to stop for tyres, is languishing in 12th position, but now on the 31st lap with Johansson in the pits and clearing them. Riccardo Patrese leads, Senna second, Prost third, Mansell fourth, Caffey is in 5th position, Gerhard Berger is 6th, Warwick is 7th, Chiva 8th, Piquet 9th, Nannini 10th, Nakajima is in 11th place, Thierry Boutsen is 12th, and nobody right down to 20th position has yet been lapped. And once again, Ayrton Senna closes on Riccardo Patrese, who can see the red and white McLaren quite large in his mirrors, but is refusing to be hassled and harried. Up to turn 3 now. This is it, 105 miles an hour, down to third gear for turn 4, the 80-mile-an-hour right-hander into the top chicane. They take the slow corner there in second gear, then accelerate away through the twists and turns onto the downhill section and back to the start and finish point.
Well, Senna's certainly putting in a big effort at the moment. He's just done his fastest lap of the race so far, and I'm convinced that Prost should come to the pits now for tyres. There we see Berger re-passing Cafe on a replay, because remember, on his lap out of the pits on fresh tyres, you're not able to go that quickly. You've got to play the tyres in a little bit, warm them up, and Cafe took the opportunity offered by that to nip past him, and then Berger has duly got back by, so Berger now is running in 5th place. There is Prost, and Prost still staying out, and I'm sure this is wrong.
Now, you've been in this sort of pressure situation, James, that Patrese is in. Senna is pushing very, very hard indeed. How do you resist it?
Well, of course, it is that the instinctive temptation is to start watching the chap behind you, and of course that detracts from your concentration of where you're going. But Patrese is nothing if not experienced, and pressure like this shouldn't bother him, because as you gain experience you realise that the onus is on the car behind you to find a way round, and really you don't have to hurry when you're leading like this. The important thing is to make no errors. So if you can't pull away from the car behind, the next tactic is to drive at such a speed where you make no risk of making any silly mistakes, because that's the one way that the following car might get past if you make a mess in the middle of a corner and have to lift when you should be on par. As one of the Lotuses comes into the pits, that's Nakajima's car coming in for tyres. Yes, here we can see what it looks like from his place. And not a bad stop. Not too bad at all. Good, sensible stop. Anything under 10 seconds is a good, competent pit stop.
Bertrand Gachot in the background comes in for tyres on his Onyx. Stefan Johansson already having done so. Thierry Boutsen's been in. Gerhard Berger has been in. But neither Patrese, Senna nor Prost on this, the 33rd lap, have been in. And that is how close it is. And there, going through, is car 27, the famous number, the famous driver, Britain's Nigel Mansell in the Ferrari. 4 seconds only behind Alain Prost. The gap has come down from 16 to 4. And Mansell is marginally quicker than all the 3 in front.
Yes, and likewise, as I was saying for Prost, I don't understand really why Senna hasn't made a dive for the pits yet, because certainly, and there is Derek Warwick making his tyre stop in the Arrows. We'll see how that goes, but the same applies to Senna. That would be the best way for him to try and get past Patrese. He's had enough of a try. And we got one wheel stuck. Oh, they're having a look around the right rear of the car, but not at the wheel. They want to jack it up again, so they found a problem on the car, and I don't think it's a tyre problem. So what a shame for Derek Warwick. He's been an unforeseen delay in the pits, and he was going very well indeed up until then. But he gets away again, but he lost a little bit too much time there. But the same, and still neither of the McLarens are in for tyres, and as far as wear is concerned for the tyres, they are surely at least at half distance of the race. Prost is now the closest he's been to Senna at any stage. Oh dear.
Oh dear, Satoru Nakajima has done it all wrong and has gone off the circuit into the gravel and is out of the Hungarian Grand Prix with a slightly adrift right rear wheel.
And we know what caused that, I would have thought anyway, and that was, the guess would be that Nakajima, there he is spinning away, and oh, and he had a bump with Warwick, I think there. Was it Warwick who was coming into the pits, which is why Warwick's car needed checking over, and Nakajima, remember, was on cold tyres having gone out, and Nakajima has arrived around on 3 wheels. How extraordinary.
Yeah, they seem to think they can put it right, which surprises me considerably. But we need to be getting... It's Piquet. Piquet, coincidentally, coming into the pits for his new set of tyres for a not particularly good stop by today's standards in just under 11 seconds. And now, coming up to half distance, lap 35 out of 77. There is the battle for the lead. Patrese, Senna, Prost as close as that. Mansell 3 seconds now behind Prost and closing. Ahead of his teammate Berger, who is 5th. Caffey is 6th in the Dallara. Chiva 7th. Nannini 8th. Piquet in 9th position. This is Nannini spinning off again. Looking left, looking right. Nothing he can do about it. Nakajima going off. And look at this. Now this is Derek Warwick ahead of Patrese, Senna and Prost. Not so much of a speed of performance margin between the Arrows and the Williams and McLarens as with some other cars, but Derek Warwick politely moves over and lets the 3 leaders through, and Mansell closes up on Warwick to take him. We'll see in a moment, and we'll see now that Nigel Mansell is only just over 3 seconds behind Alain Prost in 3rd position. There's going to be a 4-car race for the lead soon.
Indeed there is, and that was a fine example of sensible, experienced driving by Derek Warwick. He saw that the leading group, a 3-car battle was coming up behind him, and he moved over without having to abate his pace by any large amount and made sure all 3 had plenty of room to go past him. And that's good driving and a lesson to anybody about the etiquette of being lapped.
And look at Mansell in the background. He's right in the wheel tracks of Derek Warwick, who is well down, of course, as the lead 3 come out to complete their 36th lap out of 77. Williams, McLaren. Now, Nigel Mansell should be next, and he's passed Derek Warwick. And is now less than 3 seconds behind Alain Prost, lapping in 1:25.7 compared with 1:26.1 for all the 3 cars in front of him. Look for the red Ferrari, the scarlet Ferrari, and you can see there's the old loop of the circuit, which has been bypassed now. When they built the circuit, they found an underground stream they didn't know about and had to build the loop to avoid it. And between last year and this year, they have managed to correct that problem and build the circuit as it was originally intended to be, with the result that the lap is both shorter and faster. As into the pits comes Alex Caffey from 9th position. A lot of people have got past him. He's on Pirelli tyres. All the rest, or most of the rest in front of him, are on Goodyear. That was a slowish stop. And as Alex Caffey exits the pits and onto the circuit, Mansell now is within sight. There are the first 4. Patrese, Senna, Prost and Mansell.
And Prost the closest he's been for the whole race to Ayrton Senna. In fact, the leading 3 have concertinaed up, and we're getting very, very close to half distance in the race, and I'm amazed that and that is one of the Brabhams, I think, Stefano Modena, Martin Brundle. Martin Brundle stopped, and we see why now, trying to get inside Palmer's Tyrrell, and got himself into a point of no return. There was nothing he could do, having got himself into that situation, and the spin off, and it looks like he stalled the engine, and that push start, if that's what it takes, will probably disqualify him certainly from scoring any points. Now, the fact that we've reached half distance with this leading group seems very surprising to me, unless they are going to try and go the whole race on the same set of tyres. Now, that wasn't thought to be the right way to do things by most of the teams this morning, and we've seen the majority coming in for routine tyre stops as the race has gone on. But we shall see. Berger, meanwhile, in 5th place, is going very quickly indeed, fastest lap of the race, and he is some 12 seconds behind teammate Nigel Mansell.
And look at teammate Nigel Mansell now. He is up with Prost, who is up with Senna, who is up with Patrese. 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th coming through now to complete their 38th lap. We have the enjoyment of knowing that there is still as far to go in this race as has already gone, and look how close they are. And Gerhard Berger, the fastest on the circuit, is actually catching Nigel Mansell. He's a long way behind, but he's changed tyres, of course, which neither the leader, Patrese, Senna, Prost, nor Mansell have done. And it's not inconceivable that Gerhard Berger could be taking the lead in the Hungarian Grand Prix as Mansell goes for Prost, has a look, ducks back again.
Yes, Mansell's going to have to find a way past these McLarens if he can round the back of the circuit, because when they get onto the start-finish straight, I'm sure the McLarens are going to pull away from him, thus making it pretty much or almost impossible for him to pass into turn one at the end of the pit straight. So Nigel already quite clearly aware of that, and he's going to start looking for weaknesses in the McLarens round the back of the circuit.
Now, Gerhard Berger on new tyres is lapping 1.5 seconds faster than the men in front of him. He's now 10 seconds behind Mansell. So all those four, I say again, have still to come in for tyres. Berger, I think, will be taking the lead as Patrese, Senna, Prost and Mansell is driving a stunning race. He's come up from 12th on the grid to 4th in the race on a circuit which is notoriously difficult to pass people on. Over the line they go. Now I'm waiting for Gerhard Berger to go through and to see what the gap is between himself and Nigel Mansell and to see how his lap time compares. It's down to 9 seconds, the gap between Mansell, who is 4th, and Berger, who is 5th. And Berger is lapping nearly 2 seconds faster than the men in front of him. This is where the tyre wear is definitely starting to show. This is half distance.
Mansell having a look at the same place that he had a little peek last lap, but I really don't think he's going to find it easy there. It's going to require a very heroic effort, but frankly, for the Ferrari to get past the McLarens anywhere on the circuit is going to require either a very heroic effort from Mansell or a mistake from one of the McLarens. But we have now passed half distance in this race. We're on lap 40, and I must say it's a bit of a surprise to me that none of these leading four have yet been into the pits for tyres, and it may well be, remember, that tyre decisions, the final decisions, are taken during the race. Now, before the race, the leading teams were saying that they thought they'd have to make a tyre stop, but of course they can look at the wear of other people's tyres. Goodyear makes the information available to them, and so of course to Pirelli, how the wear has been and how the tyres look that have come off other cars, and that helps them, and decisions can change during the race. And I would have thought that if they were going to make stops, they should have done it by now.
And the first four are catching to lap. Martin Brundle there. Now, Martin is an experienced driver. He is the world champion sports prototype driver of 1988. In his Brabham Judd, he will see this battle for the lead bearing down on him, and he will see Mansell going through and taking third position from Alain Prost. Nigel Mansell in the V12 Ferrari goes up into third place. Now, can he do the same thing to Ayrton Senna?
And you saw how Mansell did that. He was much quicker through the downhill, that corner there that they're just exiting. He gained all his momentum, and the momentum that he had carried him past Alain Prost. Tremendous piece of driving by Mansell, because he judged the run at Prost just perfectly. He had to get the run through the previous corner and then make his play on the straight, and he did it to absolute perfection. Tremendous stuff by Mansell.
Here, and Patrese leads. Senna second, and a roar from the very pro-Ferrari crowd in front of our commentary box here. A lot of them from Austria, backing Gerhard Berger, but they know a fine drive when they see one, and they are seeing one from Nigel Mansell, who pulls away from Prost. And I'm beginning to wonder whether Prost is he must surely be coming in soon for tyres, because he's dropping back now. Over the line, it's Patrese, Senna, Prost, Mansell. Berger is now 7 seconds behind Prost in 5th position.
Well, I think that Prost is planning to stay out, but the other tactic he may be employing is just to cover Senna's every move, because if he can finish right behind Senna, he is protecting his championship lead and putting all the pressure on Senna. So it may well be that he's happy to be where he is and would like to see Mansell go past Ayrton Senna. That would certainly suit Prost very well, and Mansell looks in the mood to do it. If he can produce that same additional performance at the downhill right-hand flick and be that much quicker than Senna as he was to Prost, he should be able to get past him. and that will help Prost a great deal. And then I think what will happen is Prost will cover Senna, and if Senna goes for Tards, then Prost may well do it, but otherwise I'm sure he'll try and stay out.
Gachot out of the race in the Onyx. Bertrand Gachot from Belgium. Now, the further down the race that Ayrton Senna finishes, the happier Alain Prost will be. Prost has 17 points, World Championship lead. Senna has to do extremely well in every Grand Prix because he has failed to finish in several and must score points and as high as possible in every race if he is to repeat his 1988 World Championship. Patrese leads, Senna second, Mansell third. Prost is in fourth place, and there is Gerhard Berger in fifth position. He's only 1.8 seconds behind Alain Prost, who is fourth. He's lapping in 1:23.4. That is Berger. Prost is lapping in 1:25.4, 2 seconds slower. Berger is going to be going up and passing Prost before very much longer, and then it will be Williams in the lead, McLaren in second place, Ferrari V12s in third and fourth places. Patrese, Senna, Mansell and Berger, or is Nigel Mansell going to take the McLaren in front of him and second position?
Well, certainly Patrese, who has had not a moment's peace throughout this race, driving a very cool and well-judged race under ultimate pressure right from the start, and of course that is what one would expect with his level of experience, because there isn't anybody around who's got more experience than Riccardo Patrese. Mansell is not getting as close to Senna where he wants to on the lap. Now, this is where we've got to watch. We watch him round the last corner. He's got to stay close to Senna along the straight, up through turns 1 and 2, and then he's got to be in position to attack through the right-hand flick. Prost struggling a bit as Berger's trying to get round Derek Warwick. Now, Mansell looks in well placed now, and then it's the downhill right-hander that he was able to gain the speed on. Prost, he was quicker than Senna, but is he quick enough? Not this time. Senna a little bit more of a daunting prospect. But I think if he's going to do it, that's where he'll have to do it. But I'm sure Senna saw that happen to Prost behind him and can take defensive precautions.
On this circuit with its very smooth, very demanding surface, which makes it so difficult to set cars up. But still, Riccardo Patrese manages to hold off this terrific battle. Senna, of course, has got enormous pressure on him. He's not only trying to catch and get past Patrese, he's trying to keep behind him the forceful, ultra-aggressive Nigel Mansell in, and I say it with my heart in my mouth, a Ferrari which thus far has proved to be superbly reliable.
Well, that's the closest Mansell's been, and this is just where he needs to do it. But I have to say, on the previous lap, he had a pretty good, he was very well positioned to do to Senna what he did to Prost. But Senna was, on that occasion, well equal to the task. Nigel didn't really get a good look at all. Now, this is where it matters. Through this corner and then down the hill in the right-hander now. Mansell, can he get the run? And he's certainly quicker than Senna through there, but he just can't quite get that extra bit of momentum, but he's going to have a look. Ooh, a little bit wide there by Mansell in attempting to get past Senna. He lost sight of the apex of the corner there. It was full of Senna's car, went a little bit, missed the apex, went a little bit wide, but no harm at all.
And very interestingly, that was exactly the place where Nigel Mansell attempted to take the lead last year from Ayrton Senna when Mansell was driving the Williams Judd. He was absolutely superb, second on the grid, second on the race, lost it, went down to fourth position, and he's lost time and distance in exactly the same place here, but he will fight back. Gerhard Berger, who is in fifth position, is still the fastest man on the circuit so far. Record lap 1:23.2, which is 7 seconds faster than the previous lap record on a slightly longer lap. They're a little bit more spread out than they were, but this is lap 45, and the race order as they cross the line. is Riccardo Patrese, Ayrton Senna, Nigel Mansell first, second and third. Alain Prost is in fourth position, just 1 second ahead now of Gerhard Berger in fifth place. In sixth position behind Berger, Chiva. In seventh place, Nannini. Eighth, Boutsen. Ninth, Piquet. 10th, Caffey. 11th, Jonathan Palmer. 12th is Modena. Martin Brundle is in 18th place.
And I'm sure you've noticed at home just how well Derek Warwick's going, because sadly he's a lap down, but he is living with the leading group for speed right now, and he might just be having going through his head what might have been. Remember, of course, though, that he has made a tyre stop, which is an advantage. He has fresher rubber on than they do, and of course he lost extra time after having to have his car checked over after he'd had that bump with Nakajima. But it would appear that nothing is bent, because certainly the car seems to be handling all right. Let's hope that nothing got cracked in the incident. Prost struggling to keep up, but happy to cover Senna, but he really does want to be only one place behind Senna, so I'm quite sure he's rooting for Nigel Mansell. But as yet, Mansell, with this power disadvantage over the McLaren, hasn't really as yet looked like passing Ayrton Senna. He's not close enough this lap to be having a go.
And if to any of you at home this race seems dull because the positions are not changing, it is absolutely sensational. You are watching the finest Grand Prix drivers in the world absolutely on the limit, with 650 horsepower behind them, fighting with each other at over half distance, and Nigel Mansell is now on the attack again. You can see that for yourselves. He's closed that gap that was built between him and Ayrton Senna when Nigel got it slightly wrong on the previous lap, and how close it is now. Senna lapping about 0.4 of a second faster than Patrese on the previous lap, but Nigel Mansell faster than either of them, as you can see by the fact that he's closed up. Prost in still fourth position, but 2.5 seconds now behind, and doggedly refusing to go into the pits, which is more than you can say for Alessandro Nannini, who is coasting in, and it looks to me as though this is far more than a tyre stop, because he is not driving determinedly into the pits, he is coasting in, and it looks to me as though from 7th place he's going out of the race, and now Mansell, as he comes out of the top turn, is very close indeed to Senna, not close enough, however. That is the completion of lap 46 into lap 47, 77 lap race. Williams Renault leads, McLaren Honda leads, Ferrari engine. Then in fourth position, it's still Alain Prost, who's closed the gap to 1.6 seconds between himself and Mansell. You can see he's getting closer up the uphill straight now at 155 miles an hour. Into the left-hander at 105, down to turn 4. This is the highest point of the circuit. Now down through the gearbox to second gear, about 60 miles an hour. Nannini out of the race into the top chicane. Under the banner, Patrese, Senna, Mansell.
And I'm pretty sure now that the reports from the early pit stoppers for tyres were that the tyres were wearing less than had been feared that they would do, because remember, track conditions change all the time, and it is always impossible to forecast exactly how tyres will perform at any particular time, other than to go out at the time and actually see, because these people have gone, this leading group of 4 have gone too far to be making routine stops now. Go through, and they've closed up again with Berger now behind Derek Warwick. Senna having a look, and that could play into Mansell's hands. If Senna starts battling very hard with Patrese and trying to pass him, this could also give Nigel Mansell an opportunity and a possible opening. But certainly this Grand Prix now set for a grandstand finish. We've got some just under 20 laps to go, 28 laps to go in the race, and 5 cars all well in position as potential winners.
And I'm going to stick my neck out and stick to my prophecy that Gerhard Berger is going to finish higher up than he is now, because it is, as James has just said, a 5-car battle. 4 seconds separate the first and fifth men, and Gerhard Berger is on fresher rubber than the 4 men ahead of him.
Yes, the problem, Murray, I think, is that it's no longer an advantage. I think you get 3 or 4 laps on the fresh rubber where it really works well, and then there is a decline in performance, and then they seem to settle down again. And if there is an aware problem, because you see now that Berger has stopped this hand-over-fist catching that he originally did on fresh tyres, and it seems to me that he's now been consigned to the same level of grip that the cars in front of him have got. He used the fresh rubber. All it did really was cancel out the time he lost in the pits. He gained that time back when it was fresh, and now it seems to have, as I say, gone to the level of performance of the others. And the group is tightening, though.
Yes, and I will unashamedly eat a small slice of humble pie, because Gerhard Berger is indeed not catching Alain Prost at the moment. But Mansell is up with Senna, and Senna is up with Patrese. Prost watching them from a distance, but not a very long one.
Yes, all 5 are well capable of winning this race, but there's nothing like being in front, and their odds are in reverse proportion to the positions in which they are. i.e. Patrese is the man in front, he has the advantage. Senna next, and so it goes on down. Because overtaking, as we've seen already in this Grand Prix, is extremely difficult here.
In fact, this race could hinge on tail-enders that are being lapped, because so close is Senna to Patrese now that if Patrese hesitates in lapping a tail-ender, Senna, who is very courageous at this sort of thing, as Alain Prost is repeatedly pointing out, could dive through and take the lead. But Riccardo Patrese, with the prospect of his 3rd Grand Prix win in front of him, is certainly not going to give up lightly.
Now you see just how much power Senna's Honda engine has got, because he pulled 5 or 6 lengths. Mansell was right up Senna's under the rear wing round that corner. He's caught him again in this corner, but the McLaren pulled at least 4 or 5 lengths on that straight under pure brute power. Now this is where Mansell does have a chance. He's quicker than Senna there. And he's having a look, but he just can't quite do it. He comes through the corner quicker with more momentum, and then just as he's lining up to have a go, but he's still searching for it, but as he's lining up to have a go, the power of the Honda takes over and takes Senna just clear to safety for the position.
But the 3 acknowledged masters of Grand Prix racing, Ayrton Senna, Nigel Mansell and Alain Prost, are still having to give best to Riccardo Patrese by virtue of the fact that the experienced, ultra-experienced Italian has got the advantage of the lead on a track that is so difficult to pass. And you can see now that Gerhard Berger is close to Prost. He's got, is it Derek Warwick between himself and Prost? Mansell is now in a good position to attack Senna as they come out of this top bend and go down the longest straight of the circuit at up to 160 miles an hour. Patrese, Senna, Mansell, Prost, Berger. And as James has pointed out, look how well Derek Warwick is going.
Yes, tremendous performance. He must be livid with frustration. In fact, he's lost so much time now. Mansell's strongest point on the circuit. That's, again, you see the McLaren Honda takes over with the power. But a little bit frustrating for Berger, being stuck behind Derek Warwick, because I'm sure he'd like to get to grips with Alain Prost and the rest of that leading group. But the speed that Warwick's going, it rather leaves the onus on Berger to find a way round. Now Mansell climbing all over the back of the McLaren in the corners, and then as soon as we get to the straight, the McLaren just stretches its legs and strides away. Very, very frustrating for a driver to be in that position. You feel so completely powerless to do anything when you're following a car that's quicker on the straight. You can fight it all the way around the corners, but the only thing you can do to help it on the straight is stick your right foot hard on the floor. A little bit of excitement for them with Tyrrell going into the pits. but no drama.
Yeah, Jonathan Palmer going into the pits, and Senna goes for it. He goes through. Ayrton Senna takes the lead on the 52nd lap of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Patrese was just slightly off his mark there. And now Mansell is going to do the same thing. No, he's not. He has to hang back. Crosses his way through. Patrese has lost 2 places in almost the time he takes to say it.
I think Patrese's got some sort of a problem. Can't see what it was, but the way he went slowly into the downhill left-hander then ran wide, made me think that he may have a puncture or something like that. And here we see again, Senna had been threatening Patrese for a couple of laps there, past the start-finish line. And so, Mansell. Now, Mansell won't have such a disadvantage in a straight line now that Patrese hole in the air that was helping Senna has gone. And look at Mansell climbing all over the back of Ayrton Senna, and believe you me, Alain Prost will be cheering like mad from his cockpit for Mansell, because he really wants to finish behind Senna, and he'd rather finish third with Senna second than second with Senna first. Look at Mansell climbing, but he's not going to help him now, as Senna will power away with the Honda engine, because of course the difference between second and third is only 2 points. The difference between first and second is 3 points, and Prost's job is just to keep that difference down.
And with Prost trying now to take Patrese and get closer to Ayrton Senna in the lead now, Nigel Mansell has got exactly the same problem that Ayrton Senna has had with Patrese for so long, and that is that he's having to cope with the fact that the Hungaroring is so very difficult to get past someone on. But Ayrton Senna now on his way at the present moment to a 5th victory, which he very much needs to keep his World Championship hopes alive. Nigel Mansell again in 2nd place, and that's a place he's already had twice this year.
Really, Patrese is clearly in trouble, because he's slowed right down and he's held the others up with him. It's surprising that going that slowly that the others couldn't find a way around him, but that just underlines how difficult it is at this twisty, slow, tight circuit with only short straights connecting these slow corners, just how difficult it is to pass.
Yeah, and you can see now there's an enormous gap between Nigel Mansell in 2nd place and Riccardo Patrese in 3rd. Indeed, it is nearly getting on towards 5 seconds. There is the new race leader, Ayrton Senna, with the V12 Ferrari behind him, completing another lap, completing the 54th lap in this 77-lap race. Nigel Mansell's still got plenty of time to come to grips with Senna. Senna's still got plenty of time to pull away from Nigel Mansell. The crowd rises again. Prost is 3rd. Berger is 4th. They are both past Ricard there. And there is Derek Warwick.
Yeah, and Patrese went past us with smoke coming out of the back of his car, and obviously a serious mechanical problem, and I would think that's it. Yes, Riccardo Patrese pulls off the circuit, and you can see a little whiff of smoke coming out of the back there, and it's all over him. But a fine, steady drive from Patrese. He's had a pretty good weekend. He'll be disappointed not to have finished and got plenty of points, but really, he must be happy with his pole position and leading the race for so long. So, Prost now at 9 seconds, nearly 10 seconds behind Mansell, and that was all through following Patrese when he was in trouble and not being able to nip by.
But up into 5th position now comes Eddie Cheever. In fact, the race order, as you look at Senna and Mansell in 1st and 2nd, is Prost in 3rd position, Berger is in 4th place, Cheever is in 5th place, Thierry Boutsen, who's had a tyre stop, is in 6th position, Nelson Piquet is 7th, Cappy is 8th, Pirro is 9th, Modena is 10th, Alesi is 11th, and Derek Warwick is in 12th place and has been lapped, but is keeping up in terms of race times and speeds, lap times and speeds, with the leaders. So, over the line, Prost and Berger, 3rd and 4th, and you can see that Berger is right in the wheel tracks of the McLaren now. Prost desperately needs to keep this position and not let Berger past him, with Senna in the lead. Senna, the Brazilian's already won in San Marino, in Monaco, in Mexico, in Germany. In fact, all his 36 World Championship points so far have come from race wins, and it looks as though he's on his way to another one. And it's quite conceivable that with points from the best 11, as Riccardo Patrese sadly walks in past Alboretto's broken Lola, it's quite conceivable that with points from the best 11 out of 16 Grand Prix, counting for the World Championship, Ayrton Senna could score a possible of 99 points the way he's driving now. But Mansell harrying him. Look at it now. Mansell is closer now than he's ever been at this point. This is the Ferrari's opportunity to pull out of the slipstream of the McLaren and go through. Senna gets his foot down. This is where the superior Honda power takes over, and Mansell is not going to make it for another lap. And that is into lap 57.
Yes, no chance of him making it there unless Senna misses a gear or has a problem. But so Mansell is going to have to be heroic around the back. This is his good place, and that Senna knows that Mansell is very quick there. He would have seen in his mirrors Mansell's overtaking manoeuvre on Prost at that point, and I'm quite sure that Senna is gearing himself up to be particularly quick at that point to defend his rear there, and the rest of the lap he can take fairly easily. But Senna looks to have a big advantage, but there's still a few laps to go. Back markers could help Mansell. I'm sure Mansell will not give up until the end, and if Mansell can get his nose in front, there's no doubt that the Ferrari chassis is handling better than the McLaren, and so long as he doesn't do it just before the start-finish straight, where the McLaren might be able to power back past, I'm sure he'll have enough air by the time they've done half a dozen corners that he'll be gone.
Yeah, Senna is now doing what he did last year. He's in the front. He's controlling the race from the front. He knows how difficult it is to get past. He's been trying to do that with Patrese all the time. And that must be Berger's Ferrari. It is Gerhard Berger out of the Hungarian Grand Prix. And that is tragic. From fourth position behind Alain Prost. So it is now all down to Nigel Mansell as far as the Ferrari fans are concerned. There is Gerhard Berger, who will drive for McLaren next year, walking in, having yet again, for the 10th time this year in 10 races, having failed to score a World Championship point, and Mansell goes through. Oh, fantastic! Nigel Mansell, as he and Senna come up to pass the Onyx, takes the lead. Now, is he going to pull away? Mansell on his way to his second victory, and down to second place goes world champion Ayrton Senna.
And here we see it again, less than a lap after we said that a back marker could be what Nigel moves. A tremendous opportunity in driving, because he didn't have long to think about that. He had to get round Senna as well. He had the momentum, Senna had to lift, and Nigel Mansell has done to Senna what Senna has done to Prost a lot in the last couple of years, used the back markers to their advantage, and Mansell, just as we predicted, with the extra grip round the corners, is going to put too much daylight between himself and Senna. Senna knows that. He's desperately trying to cling on. He wants to be close enough when they complete the lap. This is where it matters, but Mansell was a lot quicker round here in the past. Yeah, he's got enough. I don't think Senna can pull that back before they get to turn one. Nope. And Senna will now be looking to these back markers. Here we see again the replay. The Onyx just in the wrong place for Ayrton Senna, who was well committed on the racing line, had to lift it. But it's not over yet for Mansell. He's got a lot of back markers ahead of himself and Senna, and he's going to need to handle them with great care and yet quite a lot of aggression, because if he doesn't attack it, Senna will, and he'll be right there. So this is a worrying couple of laps for Mansell, but I think if he can put himself successfully past that group, he's got 4 cars we can see in our sight there ahead of him from that previous picture, and until he's got that lot behind him and still a lead, I think he'll be under a lot of pressure.
I wonder if Alain Prost saw that sensational manoeuvre. If so, he must be having a little Gallic chuckle to himself, because he knows now that Senna is not in line at the present moment for his 5th Grand Prix win, and that would suit Prost very nicely indeed. Thank you very much. As Nigel Mansell comes up to lap the Tyrrell Ford of Jonathan Palmer, if he can put the Tyrrell between himself and Ayrton Senna at this straight, it will help him no end. There's the pit signal. And he's done it. He's got ahead of Palmer, and Senna is not going to get ahead of Palmer at this corner. Yes, he is. He's done it. Just got through on the inside. But that's one of the problems resolved for Nigel Mansell. He's still got two back markers in front of him. But he's got a nice handy cushion as he comes up to the part of the course that his superb handling John Barnard designed car, and that's the Minardi sliding off. So that must be Martini, I think. And Senna is now right back in Nigel Mansell's wheel tracks. This is the 60th lap in this 77-lap race. Mansell leads, Senna second, Prost third, Cheever fourth now. Jerry Boutsen is in fifth position, Piquet is sixth, Caffey is in seventh place. And Mansell once again, as they come up to the close of the lap, needs to be as far as ahead of Senna as he can, because this is where the Honda extra horsepower can enable Ayrton Senna to close right up on the rear wing of the V12 Ferrari.
And Mansell really stretching it away there, because on a clear road for both of them, he's pulled 15-20 lengths on Senna's car, and that's the sort of cushion that's beginning to become comfortable for him. He's still got traffic ahead of him. So Mansell completes lap 60 of 77. And driving an absolutely superb race, looking very dominant. But he will still got, it's going to be traffic intermittently for the rest of the race, and when they haven't got traffic, Mansell's going to want to get as much air as he can between himself and the Ferrari. He really wants 5 or 6, the McLaren rather, really wants 5 or 6 seconds advantage over Senna to be a nice comfortable cushion for when he deals with traffic. He's clearly the quickest man on the circuit, but because of the power disadvantage he has with the McLaren, against the McLaren, he doesn't have the same ability to pass people that Senna does.
And it is indeed clear that there are going to be no tire stops for the Ferrari and the McLarens now. Nigel Mansell is lapping nearly a second faster than Senna at the moment. He's 1.3 seconds ahead of the Brazilian. That's enough of a cushion at the present moment, but there's interesting things happening behind them. As Mansell leads Senna, Prost is third, Cheever is fourth, Boutsen is fifth, Piquet is sixth, Caffey is in seventh place. In eighth position, it is Emanuele Pirro in the Benetton. Ninth is Modena. 10th is Alesi, the French driver of the Tyrrell. 11th is Derek Warwick. And over the line into now their 62nd lap they go. Nigel Mansell on his way to his second victory. Fingers crossed, all British enthusiasts. Nigel Mansell is already the darling of Italy. He certainly is of Hungary, and he certainly will be of Austria and the Ferrari fans here. They would have preferred to see Berger win, but Nigel will do in lieu of that, and it looks as though it could happen.
And Alain Prost is under attack now from Eddie Cheever, who's come into the reckoning in fourth place with Terry Boutsen not far behind them. So Prost's third place will require some work to defend, because I'm sure Prost will be very happy with third place. If Senna stays where he is and Mansell can stay in front, he'd lose only 2 points of his lead over Senna, and but he will have to defend his third place. Cheever and Boutsen threatening it.
Well, let's not count any chickens before they're hatched for Senna, for Mansell, for Prost, or for anybody, because there's still enough of this race left for all sorts of things to happen. Mansell out of the top right-hander into the fast 160-mile-an-hour straight up to the Tyrrell. I think, yes, of Jonathan Palmer. And there is Senna. This is lap 62. The gap is 1.5 seconds. Senna is actually lapping marginally faster, hundredths of a second faster than Nigel Mansell, but not enough to make any real difference. But Alain Prost now comes into the pits. This is interesting, because now up into third place goes Eddie Cheever. Let's see what the problem is. Well, there's the answer. Is it going to be a quick tire stop? And is Alain Prost going to have enough of the race left? Well, it is a quick tire stop. 7.5 seconds, and Cheever has gone up into third place. Boutsen has gone up into fourth. Prost has gone down to fifth. Mansell leads Senna second, and this is lap 63.
Yes, and I'm very surprised at the timing of that tyre stop. I really think that if tyre wear was all it was, then that Prost really should have clocked that a lot earlier. It seemed a bad compromise. He should have either come in earlier, because the tyres don't suddenly go off. You get some warning, unless it's a puncture. But really, that was very bad timing, and I think he's cost himself probably third place in the race. Senna goes through in pursuit of Mansell, but Mansell's stretching that lead a little bit. And 2.5 seconds over Senna now.
Now, it just could be that Senna has got a small engine problem. They have had them in practice. I'm going to be very careful about what I say here, but the fact is that although Senna was held up a little by the Tyrrell before he could lap it, the gap is now 2.5 seconds between himself and Mansell. He's lapping a second slower than the Ferrari of the leader, and there is Nigel Mansell. Eddie Cheever third, Boutsen fourth. Prost is 19 seconds now behind Boutsen in fifth position as we wait for the sixth place man to come through, and that should be Nelson Piquet. It is Nelson Piquet, who is once again in the World Championship points. Good for the Lotus Judd team.
Yes, well, the reason that Senna was a second slower then was that he had trouble with the back marker, so he has actually been lapping the same times, pretty similar times to Mansell, but we think there might be a hint of an engine problem for Senna, and as they come round now, as they go past us, we'll have a good listen, headphones off.
James listens, and I look. Mansell crosses the line. Senna, what do you think? Is it possible that, I remember in the British Grand Prix, we detected a difference in Prost's engine note, and the fact was he'd lost his sixth gear. McLaren, and we're riding with Piquet, incidentally. Nelson Piquet, who is in sixth position, 11 seconds now behind Alain Prost in fifth position, listening good and hard to this Honda engine. McLaren have this new transverse six-speed gearbox, which has already lost both Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost a race. You have to develop these complicated mechanisms, and there's probably still work to be done. For instance, Alain Prost's problem when he broke the gearbox was a broken selector, but it looks as though Senna's holding on well.
Yes, indeed. Senna has done his fastest lap of the race so far, and a new fastest lap of the race overall to Alain Prost, as you would expect, on new rubber. But he's got 17 seconds to make, or nearly 18 seconds to make up on Thierry Boutsen. And really, I think that was very poor timing by Prost. If he'd, certainly when he started to drop back from the leading pair, he should have gone for tyres straight away then. And by trying to hang on, he's really hurt himself. Senna's engine sounded pretty much all right to me as he went by, but we'll have a listen now, or when they come round again.
Well, you can see that a race driver has to say never say die, because Senna is fighting back as Nigel Mansell fought to get the lead. 12 laps to go, and here are the positions. Nigel Mansell leading Senna by 1.5 seconds. Senna is now 24 seconds ahead of Thierry Boutsen, who is third. In fourth place it is Eddie Cheever, who is right on the tail of Thierry Boutsen. We may see that shortly. In fifth position behind Eddie Cheever, Alain Prost, well ahead of Nelson Piquet, sixth. Those are the points men. Seventh is Caffey, eighth is Pirot, ninth is Alesi, 10th is Modena, 11th is Warwick, 12th is Brundle, 13th is Jonathan Palmer. Three British drivers, 11th, 12th and 13th, albeit separated by 2 laps. And Alain Prost is the fastest man on the circuit with that new lap record, 1:22.726 and charging. This is the end of lap 66. 77 lap race.
Be interesting to see how long the benefit of new tyres lasts on Proskauer. 22.6 he's done now. And Mansell, new fastest lap on old rubber. Mansell has just done a 22.63, slightly quicker, marginally quicker than Prost last lap, and that's put a little bit more space between himself and Ayrton Senna.
There is the Brazilian. Needs to win this race. As I've said before, Prost will be nothing less than happy if Nigel Mansell wins. There's even talk of Prost and Mansell. There is the Englishman being teammates next year, with Prost driving for Ferrari. He has still not shown his hand, if indeed he knows what it's going to be next year. There he is. All sorts of rumours about who Prost will drive for next year. He has said that the only teams he'll consider, and we're back again with Nelson Piquet, are Ferrari, Williams and Benetton, apart from McLaren, and he said he does not intend to drive for McLaren next year. Indeed has announced his retirement at the French Grand Prix from the McLaren team, and he's now in 5th position, only 10 seconds behind Eddie Cheever, gaining fast. And I think actually Alain Prost has got more than enough time to catch and take Eddie Cheever and get that 4th position. James shakes his head.
Well, only because I think he's had the best out of that new set of tyres already, and he'll be slowing down slightly. His last lap was not as quick as the record-breaking ones earlier, but Mansell is putting on a truly staggering performance in front, because he's set the fastest lap on tyres that were 65 laps old, and that is quite something. The Ferrari chassis really working well in race trim. It's extraordinary that it was such a struggle for the Ferraris, particularly Mansell, in qualifying. But whatever it needed, they've found. And Mansell from 12th on the grid, and you don't see many people win Grand Prix from 12th on the grid. Not that he's won it yet, but he's certainly looking like it. He's done all the work. Even on a circuit where overtaking is easy, let alone on a track like this. So this is a really exceptional drive from Nigel Mansell. Now we're first 4 have gone by us. We're waiting for Prost to go by. Prost is now only 4.5 seconds behind Cheever, and Cheever is dropping back a bit from Boutsen. So Prost sights on 4th place, and Murray's right. He has got plenty of time. He's got to catch him, but of course he's got to get past him.
So Nigel Mansell, who finished 2nd in the French Grand Prix, having started from the pit lane, is showing every sign of winning the Hungarian Grand Prix, having started 12th on the grid. He's now 4.5 seconds and much faster ahead of Ayrton Senna, 123.6 compared with 124.5. Has Ayrton Senna got a problem? And now, still in 3rd position, it's Boutsen.
Well, I think Mansell just put it out of his reach when he set a new lap record then about 3 laps ago, and I think Senna has realised he can't respond for speed, and not a problem. He's going to have to settle for 2nd unless Mansell makes error, because Mansell now has put this race out of other people's reach. All he has to do is to stand up to win.
And you're looking now at Eddie Cheever being caught by Alain Prost. Eddie Cheever, who is in 4th position, some distance behind Thierry Boutsen, 4 seconds in fact. And there is Nigel Mansell, the leader, but the gap between Cheever and Prost is down to just under 2 seconds. And Prost is in 5th position, going for 4th, which can make all the difference to his World Championship chances. Alain Prost, who this year has only failed to finish once, and that was in Canada. In every other race he has been in the points with 3 victories, 4 second places, a 5th, an incredible season. No more than you'd expect, though, from the double world champion Frenchman. Nigel Mansell now is into his 70th, 70th lap, 77 lap race. Up goes the gap, 7.5 seconds. Mansell, 123.1 seconds. Senna, 125.9 seconds. Thierry Boutsen in 3rd position. Eddie Cheever 4th. Prost catching the American in the arrows. So it's a V12 Ferrari leading a V10 Honda-powered McLaren. Then the V10 Renault-powered Williams of Thierry Boutsen in 3rd place. The V8 Ford-powered Arrows of Eddie Cheever in 4th position, being caught by Alain Prost. And And there is the little Frenchman who is caught and passed both the Brabhams of Stefano Modena and Martin Brundle, who are battling for 11th place.
There's been a teamwork here by the Arrows team. Derek Warwick has, some laps ago, let Eddie Cheever through because he was up in the points and racing for that, but he's able to sit right behind, and he should be covering the rear for Eddie Cheever, so that's a problem for Prost because he's got 2 Arrowses to pass in order to make up 1 place.
And they are all in touch with their respective pits by radio. Mansell. Now look at the gap between Nigel Mansell, who is now into his 71st lap, and that McLaren Honda of Ayrton Senna. It really does sound to me as though it is labouring. And the gap is 10.5 seconds now. Mansell is pulling away from Senna at the rate of some 3 seconds a lap. He's just gone round in 1:23.4, Senna 1:23.6. There is the Brazilian. Is he going to last the race? Thierry Boutsen is well behind in 3rd position. Senna is quite safe as long as he can keep going for 2nd place. But Eddie Cheever now has got a real battle on his hands against Alain Prost. Mansell, Senna, Boutsen, 1st, 2nd, 3rd. Thierry Boutsen having a much better run than he's had in the recent past. There is the graphic which shows where Nigel Mansell, the red spot, is in comparison with Alain Prost in 5th position, and you can see it's about 2/3 of a lap of the Hungaro ring, which is 2.5 miles long. Nigel Mansell into and out of the last corner to complete his 71st lap. Now, engine spotter James Hunt's got the earphones off. As Mansell goes into the corner, we're waiting for Senna to emerge. And Mansell's got the full length of the start and finish straight. What do you think, James? Are you there?
Yes, yes, I have just come back. I think it sounds all right to me, and I think actually that Senna has just eased off. He saw that he couldn't chase Mansell. Mansell put in a lap that was clearly out of Senna's reach with the on the tyres and the chassis setup that he's got, and I think Senna has settled for 2nd place. Leave Nigel to get on with it, and that's sensible driving. If it is a little bit rough, it might just be a cracked exhaust or something like that, but I don't think it's holding him up a lot, because what I was listening for then was the gear change points, and he changed into top, if anything, slightly earlier than Prost has been doing.
Now, look at this man, Nigel Mansell, on his 72nd lap. And bear this in mind, he started from 12th on the grid. He passed Jean Alesi in his Tyrrell. He passed Pierluigi Martini in his Minardi. He passed Derek Warwick in the Arrows. He passed Modena in the Brabham. He passed Nannini in the Benetton. He passed Berger in the Ferrari. Prost and Boutsen. Caffey, of course, who held them up for so long. Then he took Ayrton Senna. Now he crosses the line to complete his 72nd and start his 73rd lap, with Ayrton Senna still to appear over the start and finish line at the end of his 72nd lap. Mansell goes on his seemingly victorious way, 13.2 seconds ahead of Ayrton Senna, still lapping considerably faster. And we now wait for the Williams, so it's a Ferrari leading, a McLaren 2nd, a Williams 3rd. How much longer is it going to be an Arrows 4th? Hopefully we'll be able to... It's good to look at the Ferrari. It would be nice to look at the Arrows as Boutsen crosses the line. He's gone through. Now he is 11 seconds behind Senna, and he's lapping about 0.6 of a second faster than the McLaren, and Prost is coming. I could just tell you that Prost has passed Warwick. He's right up to Eddie Cheever now. So if Warwick was holding Alain Prost back, he's doing it no longer, because Alain Prost is now right up with Eddie Cheever. I'm sorry to talk about something you can't see, but it is worth hearing.
Yes, and I should think Prost will be lining up to try and pass Cheever as they complete the next lap over the start-finish line. But at that point, he's going to have over 10 seconds to go to catch Boutsen for 3rd place, and I think that's out of his reach at this stage of the race.
Mansell has gone through and started another lap. He is into his 74th lap. He's only got 3 laps at the end of this one between himself and a quite stunning victory in Hungary for his second win of 1989. Ayrton Senna, is this going to be the race which denies the Brazilian the 1989 World Championship? Well, we've still got a good few races to go, right down to the Australian Grand Prix at Adelaide in November, the one that everybody looks forward to going to so very much. And it may even go right down to the Australian Grand Prix. But here is Mansell up at the highest point of the circuit, the top chicane, approaching the left-hander, and then the right at turn 8, swinging down to complete yet another lap.
And there is the battle for fourth place, and Prost was not close enough to Cheever then as they went past us opposite the pits. So you'll have to wait another lap, and Cheever, Boutsen really charging on. Sorry, Cheever really charging on there. Cheever holding off well and going quicker at that point of the circuit, pulling out quite a lead from Prost. Of course, Prost will have to be within 2 or 3 car lengths as they complete the lap in order to use his power to sweep past the arrows. And Cheever seems to be going very well indeed.
And Nigel Mansell is into his 75th lap, as is Ayrton Senna in second position. Looking now at the battle for third place, with the 2 arrows sandwiching Alain Prost. Now let's see what the gap is, as across the line out of the top right-hander shortly will become the arrows, then Alain Prost. There is the Frenchman in fourth position on his new tyres. Boutsen has gone through, and actually the battle for fourth is getting tolerably close to Thierry Boutsen, but not close enough for Boutsen to leave it. And now I can tell you, now there is Cheever and there is Prost. Cheever's car didn't sound a bit too healthy to me. I think it may have a cracked exhaust. It doesn't seem to be affecting the performance at all. That's Nigel Mansell on his 75th lap, 2 laps to go at the end of this one. The Ferrari leads, which took the lead, well, what was it, round about lap 60 that Nigel Mansell, lap 58 that Nigel Mansell went into the lead. Now he is on lap 75, 2 laps, 5 miles to go between himself and the checkered flag. In fact, it's less than that now.
And the key battle in the race now is the Prost one with Eddie Cheever. And Cheever seemed to be looking pretty much in command of the situation. He was able to pull away down the early part of the lap, looking comfortable, but of course we're watching Mansell, and what a superb performance he's put up today. Quite outstanding, passing a lot of cars to come from 12th on the grid, to take the lead, and then, quite honestly, to put in a new lap record on tyres that were some 65 laps old or thereabouts was a really brilliant effort. So now here is the battle for fourth place rather. Prost, very important to Alain Prost to get that extra place to stop Senna shrinking that lead of his for the championship.
Mansell on his penultimate lap, 76, just 1 to go at the end of this one. Well, he didn't win any races for Lotus, for whom the man from the Isle of Man drove for 5 years. He won 13 Grand Prix for Williams. He's won 1 for Ferrari. He goes now into the last lap, just 2.5 miles between Nigel Mansell and the checkered flag, and this has to be one of the most memorable Grand Prix for a very, very long time. A quite magnificent drive. He's almost home now, and this is vindication of John Barnard's decision to fit that semi-automatic gearbox to the Ferrari, to make the most use of the V12 Ferrari power torque. He's persevered with all the mechanical problems, and it's worked.
Yes, and the drivability level must be a tremendous bonus around a circuit like this, because it's with these short straights and lots of slow corners, they're up and down, and Alain Prost was alongside Eddie Cheever as they went past us, but Prost was on the outside for going into turn 1, and but we haven't seen the outcome of that. They go out of our sight. And really a magnificent drive by Nigel Mansell. I'm sure he'll look back on this as one of the best of his career. The Ferrari has worked beautifully for him, but he was given an awful lot of work to do starting 12th on the grid. He was patient where it mattered in the early part of the race, and then he just went quicker and quicker. And a superb win for Nigel Mansell and Ferrari.
Yes, over the line goes Nigel Mansell for his second Ferrari victory of 1989 as Ayrton Senna approaches in second position. It looks as though it is certainly going to be Thierry Boutsen in third place, but Eddie Cheever or Alain Prost. Well, we'll wait and see, but as Cheever exits the last corner of the last lap, as Senna exits the last corner of the last lap to take that second place, here he goes.
And Prost has made it past Cheever. He made it, I'm sure, in turn one. We couldn't see it, but he was halfway alongside him on the straight.
Boutsen takes third position, so victory for Mansell. Ayrton Senna second, Thierry Boutsen in third place. Prost, Mansell, Thierry Boutsen shows his pot to the crowd. Third position, Ferrari wins. McLaren second, Williams third, but the man of the day, the man of the race, the man from the Isle of Man, from Port Erin, Nigel Mansell, his 15th Grand Prix win. He has every justification for looking as happy as he does.
15th win, probably his best, but...
4 million, you're worth every penny of it. That was a stunning race. Tell us about it.
Whatever it is, it's not enough. I've got to say, for the first time ever in my life, that was my best race, Murray. That was fantastic. I was very fortunate, but I'm very, very happy.
So you should be. You fought your way up from 12th on the grid. What were the difficult parts?
Well, I made my mind up on the start that I had to make 4 or 5 cars up on the start, and I got a beautiful start, and I went around the outside on the first corner, and I think I came in front of Derek. So wherever Derek was on the grid, I think it was 4 cars in front, I came in. So that put me, I think I was immediately 7th straight away on the first lap, and then it was just a question of being patient and having a fantastic race with Terry and a few others.
But what about that fantastically opportunistic move getting past Ayrton?
Yeah, Ayrton was pushing hard, I was pushing hard. It was just a question who would get a little bit benefit of the traffic, and Ayrton was a little bit unlucky, but I was there ready to hopefully take any opportunity because I knew I had to be right with him because he doesn't make any mistakes, or very few. But I just had to be there just in case, and I was very fortunate. An opening arose, and I went for it, and it was very close, but I'm happy I managed to get past.
Marvellous race which you can enjoy again.